Right, Dr. Dittmer, thank you first of all very much inviting me here and the Körber Foundation. Hamburg is an interesting city. I just started to learn a bit more about that. For last couple of months I've been as well the president of the Helsinki region, and there our civil servant had looked how to benchmark us with some of the other major regions in Europe, so they picked up, of course, Stockholm, Copenhagen, Hamburg, and then Amsterdam and the Northern Netherlands. And what I challenged them that then, why do you just talk about benchmarking? We don't just want to know where we are compared to some of the others, but we want to learn from that. So bench learning is the key word for that. So let's see what comes out of that. So. And as Julia Andreou just said, so 2 weeks ago, Espoo went through a huge competition at the final stage of that. There were in the beginning 150 cities from around the world to compete this year's nomination as the most intelligent community in the world. Community is there the key word. So I think that is one of the key messages that I have today. It's the communities of practice, communities created by the people. So human aspects were this year very strongly on that criteria for that nomination. Espoo was among the 7 finalists and the only European city on that. We were even very happy on that, so that we could use that as kind of stepping stone forward. But then, surprised in the third day evening, I was not anymore in London on that, so I needed to be in Sofia for the EU presidency conference, talking there some other issues. But then our mayor and his team, more than 10 persons representing both the industry and educational establishments, universities, vocational schools, etc. So they were really, in a way, surprised that the Oscar winner was our city. So now we are just in the learning process. What shall we do with that? Very much, I think the key issue has been that we need to contribute more to the international community. And that's when I was asked to be here, and then with the detailed instruction, I was asked that, can you showcase some concrete measures, what have been done, what have you learned, look a bit on a broader scale, but use your Finland experiences. So I decided that maybe it's better to start with that and tell a bit about the background, how Espoo became really the forerunner as a learning city. So this was a cartoon in a couple of the European newspapers already years ago, when Europe was deep in the crisis and looking that, is this our European future? So as it looked very much. But in Espoo we answered differently. We know that we want to be a learning city, a real learning city. We analyzed a bit the background, but what does it mean for the political decision makers? And I made there a link to the video. You can look at that later on. So it's a 2.5-minute video, not very long, but it's really about this community. So how to build a community? What does it mean for the people? So I started first at a few slides about the European frame, what is critical at the moment, and how Europe is moving to the next phase. What very much in the Brussels politics is now the financial framework for the next multi-annual 7-year period, MFF 2020. And on that, so one of those crucial messages has been that the role of cities or city-driven regions, as I often say it, so that is growing. And then I don't talk about the authorities, because city includes, of course, citizens, but all the other actors, companies, industry, large and small, and all the research institutions, schools, kindergarten, and so on. And when linking that to several of the messages what we have had in our plenaries by the commissioners, so take more role, take more responsibility, and you need, as they address us, the cities and regions in Europe, you need to speed up experimenting and scaling the results for the use of the others. Carlos Moedas, he made a cover message in this green book. I put there a link to the Urban Mill, one of those new initiatives that we have going on at the Aalto University campus inside the Espoo Innovation Garden. And there you can find this book as well. So I was very much in charge of that. It was an extensive 3-year program. 20 million euros was spent on research. Half of that money came from industry. The other half came from the Finnish innovation funding agency Tekes. But that was really how to integrate on urban planning the new developments in learning and in innovation, and what comes out of that. So that was the reason why the companies wanted to invest, and now we are implementing that in our urban planning in the Helsinki metropolitan region. So open innovation, open science, open to the world. So they are one of the key messages now. That's what will happen in the research framework horizon for the next years, so that not anymore separate pillars, one pillar for scientific excellence, one pillar for industrial leadership, and one for societal challenges, but more integrated, and the key word on that is ecosystem, place-based. The other approach to that, so we, Committee of the Region, during my presidency, we made this kind of report. I was challenging our members in our plenary that I need 20 of you or 30, 50 of you to write your own story, 5 pages. We give you a frame, write how your own city is a forerunner, a pioneer on moving to this innovation policy, innovation ecosystems. And we got a very good feedback out of that, and then we published the report after just a couple of months hard work, integrated a lot of data by the Joint Research Centre of the EU, so not only having separate stories, but kind of integrating, and what do we learn from that? And it was very much those kind of conclusions what I've written here. I've used a lot of slides. I'm not going through the details, so it's for more. I will leave that. So if someone wants to study a bit more and think what is the background, so you can definitely use this. And as was the first point on that, so that the more and more the communities who are kind of becoming leaders, so they are operating as ecosystems. So it's either in some cases, I've used the example of Berlin a couple of times, where there are different places or local activities. One is clustering on that, one is clustering on something else. Healthcare is strongly in one, others are focusing on other industries, but typically very strongly with the new innovative ideas based on research, implementing that. But then Berlin, of course, it's not an ecosystem separately or not, but it's an ecosystem of many ecosystems. And in all of those, it's about the interaction and how we encourage, how we create this kind of mentality, local mindset towards entrepreneurship, more to moving to digitalization, and not only locally, but partnering throughout the world, networking. They are the key issues on that. So then I want to link, this is very much due to that what we got this nomination, the intelligent community, the most intelligent community in the world. So we immediately started to what is our role? So what is our kind of obligatory global role? United Nations, they approach us, and now actually the mid-July they will announce in New York at the UN premises will be the opening of this special 25+5 cities leadership platform to go deeper on the sustainable development goals of the UN. So all those 17 goals will be analyzed more deeper, how to focus, how that the results can be used throughout the world. And Espoo has been now invited in collaboration with our Aalto University. What does this kind of innovation gardening really mean? The roots, where we build on everything, that's the ground is essential. So how to do this transformation? I've heard very often talked about the transformation, what we need in the economical life or digital life, and they are really the key issues now. So we want everywhere, we need to be more kind of speeding up this transformation, but integrating so that it's not only being a smart city, but being a human and sustainable city. And that's our role there will be in one of those activities. So for sure there will be a lot more outcomes out of that. So I wanted to add one of the kind of drawings of the ecosystems, because we have used this inside our city as well. So to tell our political leaders that what is this all about? Of course, everyone understands that in many cases companies are operating their own strategic alliances, subcontractors, so they form their corporate ecosystem, which is then linked with the research centers, or then there are public sector producing certain services, and so on. Universities very much collaborating with each other. But we wanted to see what is the open city as a service concept, that as we've been trying to challenge ourselves on that. What does that really mean in real life practice? We added then to that so that what is our target? Growing innovation ecosystem where people are co-creating together, working, learning together for a sustainable future, and then integrating these different ecosystems to work more together as a kind of more holistic ecosystem throughout the operations. I added then the two kind of old drawings, so just that the lifelong learning or innovation, it's not the issue of today. It has been in the future. The New Club of Rome had an important study in the 1970s about lifelong learning and so on. Jacques Delors talked a lot about the lifelong learning and the principles on that. So we as well in Finland, if I add one element to that, so early 80s, so not more than 35 years ago, we were, as a country, among the lowest in OECD countries in investments in research and development. And it took about 15 years that we were at the top of that rank. And that was very much kind of joint decision by the industry, by the government, by the public sector, so that we will invest more in research. We need more knowledge. We want to invest more in our educational system. And then as part of that process, we had even at the parliament, we established this, what is there called the Committee for the Future. Permanent committee. Every parliament has its Foreign Affairs Committee or Science Education Committee. We decided that we want to focus a bit more on the future, how to make that to happen, how to invent. And that's why this was established. I was there at that time the member and initiating a lot of these activities about why innovation is the key word for politicians. And that was kind of drawing that I did myself in integrating different elements. Some of you might know or at least heard or read about Professor Ikuchiro Nonaka, the guru of knowledge management. I had a chance, I had been contacting Japan how to get Nonaka to stop over in Helsinki. I said that, and I was then, okay, he is flying on Friday evening from Switzerland, stops in Helsinki for the overnight, and then the following day continues with the Finnair flight to Tokyo. And said that, of course, that fits. I will come to pick you up at the 8:30 at the airport, but what you need to promise me, you will and he will spend 1 hour with me in their hotel so I can explain why Finland is interesting for his research as the guru of knowledge management. And this was what I made. I spent the week on planning how can I do that, how can you use wisely the hour that I had been promised. And then he said that now I know why I'm in Finland, I will come back. So knowledge management for the whole country. But then we have started to talk about that. Why not to have regional committees for the future? Politicians on the regional council, some of them should focus on that and start thinking about how to integrate all these elements. And the core for this event here, your seminar, is that we had this national action plan, so implementing lifelong learning strategy for the country. And then integrating that to the national innovation system, more investments in research and development, and digitalization is there already 20 years ago. It has been, and more it will be. And we wanted to build that on the values, what are the success factors, what we defined, globalization, use information and technology, and then innovation, but not only engineering. But I have engineering background, and many of the people there in the Committee for the Future Day, when we were drawing our key messages, so they were, why do we take innovation? It's too much technology. And then after several debates, then we agreed, okay, let's write it, human aspect in innovation. I think that was a very good decision, especially at that time, and it has guided not only me, but many others as well. And the city level, so we did this 20 years ago for our own city, Espoo, and I think that the key there for your conference is so this learning environment. So they are crucial element on that. We started to see that we need to do investments, making new things to happen. And there was physical environment, virtual environment, spiritual, and all the elements, so that what you could think about, what is the space? It's very much the mental space, spiritual, whatever you call, whatever word you're using on that. And that is the key, and that is why the change is so enormous at the moment. Finally, I could say so. Okay, schools have been changing slowly, but now it's definitely speeding up. Espoo, that's the kind of nice drawing about our city. So we are next just to Helsinki with the same borderline. We are by the sea. We have 150 islands, a nice coastal area. A hiking path goes through all of those so that people can really hike on or bike on the seashore. We have 100 lakes inside the city, a national park. So, and it's the essential on the innovation perspective is we are not a traditional city with the one city center, because our city center for long had been Helsinki, downtown Helsinki. But we wanted, made a decision on the city council at that time. I was not yet there in the end of 60s when it was made the decision, let's improve the city with 5 city centers. And now that has been done, and that's why we as well, a couple of years ago, we were in the ranking, the #1 sustainable city in Europe. And through the measures, through the 100 criteria. So what is essential, and that's why we are now committing on showcasing how to implement the Paris Agreement, the climate action. And that happens not only by the city, but the industry is heavily involved on that, so joint efforts a lot. And that's more like an aerial view. Then the bottom there is this part of the Espoo, where we have the former Helsinki University of Technology, which is now Aalto University, after the merger of science and technology engineering to business and art and design. 3 prestige old universities merged and started to build the future as one university from 2010. And now down in the center of so that's downtown Helsinki, we are very heavily, and now there is the metro line as well, opened a year ago. So we move on, and we started to call this new phenomena as an Espoo Innovation Garden. took the metaphor from gardening, so where we need to make the investments to have this new development going. So globally ambitious, creative fusion, systematic, user-driven and solution-focused, and then pioneering learning and education. So how to integrate to that and integrate that to entrepreneurship and these ecosystems. I will show a few slides out of that. And maybe the cornerstone, one of the drivers of that has really been the university, because that was really getting the people from 3 totally different university cultures to work together on this more towards innovation, very strongly science research based. And then first in the middle of that, so we were defining that let's focus on ICT and digitalization, art and design, global business dynamics, and new materials, use of natural resources. And that was our kind of societal role, human-centered living environments, advanced energy solutions, and health and well-being. And that has been done, so half of the professors, meaning practically more than 200 professors, have been recruited as part of the tenure track system within the last 8 years. And half of them, a bit simplifying, half of them are foreign professors, people who are in their tenure track to be really moving on to be the scientific leaders. And good on that is, so we needed to change the laws in Finland, because previously it was said that the teaching needs to be either in Finnish or Swedish, our 2 official languages, but now it's more and more English, and a lot of changes have happened. And with this, I want to show that this was a drawing that I did with my team when we formed this Aalto University, so that we needed to integrate basic research to industrial research and development, and focus especially how we encourage this applied research, where the researchers on the scientific side are bringing their tradition, and then what is there in the middle on the yellow, Aalto Factory Park. We started by creating new platforms, new locations, physical locations where people come together with people from other disciplines or industry and other countries, so creating something new, and all that was targeted for this societal impact. So very much you cannot build the innovation in education unless you start from the, let's say, many of the basic things. And here I've tried to add, so it's a bit complicated, but how to integrate, how to have better synergy between research, education, and innovation. And that has been, this knowledge triangle has been quite much in the EU policy as well. And the core is how you orchestrate the different activities. You have many parallel projects, but how to motivate people, encourage people to do more together, to create what are there, the platforms for new solutions, and platform for learning spaces, for blended learning, and so on, foresight, of course. And then we had a lot of this kind of getting people together to work, integrating global ecosystem developments, the strategy framework for society and the university, and new research knowledge. And then different sessions on this where I'm in the middle, so getting people together with their tacit knowledge, recognizing the opportunities, developing mission and vision, and then evaluating and embodying, implementing that. And then that had an effect on this factory and those new plans, what we then took for the actions. And this was very much so organizing what we call the World Cafe or Learning Cafe concept, get people to work for half a day or even 1 day together, create and then look the results and kind of breaking the borders, breaking barriers for inventing future. And linking that to the role of city as well, we had a couple of the innovation camps there, people from abroad as well participating. We started to think that if inside the university you need that kind of special factories or places for creating something new, why not to look that from the city perspective? Of course, everywhere here you have a lot of different places, but start thinking if you integrate a bit more their collaboration, how to do that, and then we even had there on here on the right-hand lower part, idea nursery. We had a nice big industrial head office is there, Fortum, the largest energy company in Scandinavia. Nokia head office was at that time there. So let's open the doors to get the kindergarten children there and the others. So what could that mean for the families? And integrate that to work with the school system and with the university. So and now when there is the construction, renovation, building new premises there along the metro line, so there's much of this kind of ideas moving on. So how to get that attractive places attractive for people. And this is just to show that you need different instruments for different purposes. In each of those, so on the one hand here you have the different purpose, so kind of early mover advantage, spreading multidisciplinary methods, real products, exploring opportunities and different instruments, kind of factories or platforms, and so they were created. And not on a permanent basis, but let them to stay for a couple of years and then move to something else. I think this is very much, and what we learned from that, so we have went to change the whole mentality, the urban planning side of the university campus, so invite more industry there, more activities there, and what is there, the keyword slush. If you don't know what that is, go to look from the Google. The largest entrepreneurial youth event is organized every year, end of November, early December, when the weather is awful outside, at least in Finland. So then the brains come together with 1,000 venture capitalists coming from all around the world with those 20,000 participants. So really big event, something very, very different this year again as well. So I think soon the tickets will be sold out. So, and we want to move the university campus to be something similar like that, and there's now a lot on that. And that is part what we have used for the whole school system. We have introduced this concept, school as a service, which is not anymore this decentralized, a school as one building. But it's using different spaces, and we started practically good reason was as well for the city, as that we needed to close a few schools down because the bad indoor climate. So as the children got health problems, we needed to do immediately something. And why not to bring them to the university premises? But if we brought, and when we brought them, why to use only that one building? Why don't we use the chemistry labs and other facilities that we have? And that has started to go, so it's already been going on for 3 years. We have 2 upper secondary schools there, or the high school level, children from 15 to 18, and now we rented a new building for the city from that premise, so to continue the process. So, and then all this came as well from our metro line. So we needed to open up, what do we do now when we finally are having the metro underground, to renew the metro station surroundings, but why not to let the children as well to use the metro just 5 minutes from there where they used to be to the sports park where there's a metro station in the middle. Why not to use them, all the facilities which are not that much used daily, or the same with the university. Why not to use the facilities that are only in part-time use by the university itself? And so we have calculated this heavily. We are now, the city is investing 1 billion euros within the next 10 years on either building new schools or renovating the old ones, but based on this new concept. So it's much more flexibility, much better results from the children, so they are focusing this more, that what can be done with that. So learning in practice, it's not that there is a teacher and the children are, it's obligatory just to keep quiet and try to listen and understand. But it's their own learners' active role. It's very much interaction during that, learning to learn. Key question already 20 years when we renewed the school laws, let the schools, the headmasters of the schools have much more autonomy than so far within the certain national curriculum frame anyhow. And all this has changed this learning, and now recently, think about that. Those words, Android, Google, Chrome, iPad, Instagram, Airbnb, any of those did not exist 10 years ago. If we go 10 years from now, everything is definitely digitalized, even speeding up. How can those who are now in the school age to be prepared with their digital and other skills to operate in the world which is totally different from now on? I'm not that good in foresight, so to tell what it should be, but I'm sure that we need much more this kind of interaction and operations with the children and with the teachers. And just 2 slides so that we've taken this Slush initiative, how Finland turned out to be the country for entrepreneurship, strongly, especially when Nokia went down. There were thousands of competent professionals free of the work. We said that let's partly retrain. Nokia invested itself, government invested, so to get people to other disciplines, many to service industry, to start creating, making the change, this transformation to happen. But not only Nokia, much more than that happened, and now we've taken as well, so young people were not anymore dreaming for the job in the large companies. Of course, many of us still go there. Big companies are important, but still having this change, and we've used that now, our educational startup ecosystem development, and much to do internationally. So those people who operate on this, so they told me that they are now looking for something on a European scale, so let's do it together, let's learn from the others. So this is as well an option, so how they have within the last 5 years trained the experts to be more on entrepreneurs on the education system. All this is what Amsterdam has strongly is good example of this maker, city maker. So we've used that make with Espoo as a symbol there as well. And much of that is done. This is the wise use of cohesion funds in Europe, or the part of the cohesion funds is the regional development and social funds is obligatory use for urban development. And we have taken all the 6 largest cities in Finland, pushed these cities to do more collaboration, and using that on digitalization, new educational system, creating new tools, instruments for collaboration, using the latest knowledge. And this is now our Finnish example for the EU cohesion 30th anniversary year, and a lot on that as well. And I will finish with this, so that saying that, okay, we need the instruments, but why? Why should every city or every organization develop something for themselves only? Why not sharing that? And even better if you co-create that together, so then you can test, you can help, as is the others. And that is very much the message for what can be and will happen on Europe now, more European partnerships based on what is called the smart specialization. So every region or a member state, the smaller ones, having their own strategy with the spearheads, 5 or so, and then collaborating based on those. And EU financing is going to be targeted much more on those, and then creating the synergy between those partnerships, so that we really have a kind of critical mass in certain healthcare issues, clean tech issues, smart strategic energy technology development, and so on, and then sharing the results. And I think that is what the digitalization is bringing as well, but we need to have this in parallel move on this transformation. It's economic transformation towards sustainable growth. It's a digital transformation where the human beings, we are the core of that, and you are the core of that. And that's why it's easy to finish what Julia said in the morning. So more and more, let the people do. Let's have more on the bottom-up activities and learn from that. That's the future, and that's why the role of cities is so crucial. Thank you very much.